Hey everyone, welcome to Tiffany Talks Telemetry. I'm your host, Tiffany. As a solutions consultant here with Harris in the Twin Cities, it's my job to help building owners and managers operate their facility as efficiently as possible. And over the years, the way we monitor and maintain buildings has changed, so I'm here to share the exciting news around it. Stay tuned and get ready for a new episode of Tiffany Talks Telemetry. Our guests today are Alan Snaidauf and Ryan Lewton from Key to Act. Alan has been with Key to Act since 2019, and he's been supporting the development of telemetry for over 2 years. He's also been providing software and hardware consulting solutions for over 20 years. Ryan has been with Key to Act since 2020, and he is currently the senior business consultant. He has been in the smart building industry since 2007, and he's been providing energy services for over 20 years. All right, well, welcome to episode 3 of Tiffany Talks Telemetry. I'd like to thank you both for joining me on this podcast and taking the time to talk about telemetry and how Key to Act sort of fits in with everything. So could you, Ryan or Alan, maybe one of you explain a little bit for those who are listening and don't know anything about Key to Act, exactly what you do and how it fits in with telemetry and Harris?
Sure. I'd be happy to. Again, I'm Alan Snaidauf. The way this works, I've been working with Harris myself for almost 2.5 years now. What Key to Act does, Key to Act has been in business since 1995. We call our employees locksmiths because what we do is we actually unlock data so that our clients can reach their fullest potential in the easiest way possible. A number of solutions that we bring to the table, primarily what we're talking about as it relates to telemetry is our building analytics program. It's called BOB, Building Optimization Broker. The way that works together is we are truly helping as a backbone for telemetry to be able to bring real-time data from buildings into your business, of course, so that you can respond to your clients in real time with real issues that need to be addressed. I think that a big part of what we've done together is not only worked with the building analytics themselves, but some of the other tools that we provide as well, such as our mobile solutions and things like that. So it's a full solution, literally from end to end, from information coming out of a building all the way through the entire service offering, all the way to the point where it then drives back into your back office, if you will, and manages and accounts for everything at the same time. So it's a very seamless and let's just say considerably more easy full solution for businesses like yours to use.
Okay, great. And why did you choose to work with service providers instead of building owners?
Well, interestingly enough, we actually did and had attempted quite feverishly, if you will, to work directly with business owners, building owners, going back to about 2019. I would say that for the most part, they really understood and bought into the idea and concept behind building analytics and how it could help their buildings. But the reality is that where they really found it to be difficult is to be able to have folks that are going to manage the software and really drive that service action, because it still does require folks to do things, right? Mm-hmm. So the building owners themselves did see the value, but didn't know how they would then change their own internal business structures to be able to do that themselves. So it made more sense for us to work with MSPs that could provide that to them.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk a little bit about the future of analytics and building management from Key to Act's perspective. What kind of steps are you taking to move the industry sort of in that direction?
Well, again, our perspective, simply put, is, when you start to look at, the larger picture of what we're talking about, building management from our perspective is going to be augmented significantly, and even more so as the future unfolds with technology. Let's face it. If you start to look at how the automotive industry, for instance, has evolved over time. In the past, the model would be something would happen with your car. You'd hear something, it drove funny, what have you. You'd take it to a technician. They'd drive it around too, based on your description. They try to figure out what was happening, perhaps, perform a repair or what have you. And a week later, you're saying, gosh, that same situation's going on. What did they do or what didn't they do, right? Mm-hmm. As time went by, now you can actually plug a little device in a car today that tells you exactly what's happening and exactly what to do about it. It's kind of the same thing here. We see the future of building management, being able to take information that's coming out of buildings in real time and being able to act on them and your customer's best interest. What are we doing specifically? We're investing resources to expand channel partners and alliance programs to focus on areas of IoT devices for building spaces, facilities management systems integrations. And, one of the other things that's really big for a lot of folks is, working with retail energy broker programs to really help them to reduce their energy spend as well. So there's quite a bit that we're doing in that area.
Yeah.
Not sure if Ryan would like to add to that.
Absolutely. There's a variety of different influences that are putting pressure on traditional, service organizations, not to mention building owners and property managers. So, the only real way that we're going to fill that gap is by the use of technology and trying to extend our resources as far as we possibly can. Also add in, the skilled labor shortage that we're all facing. We're seeing that all across the country, as well as they kind of call us the gray collar workforce, right? Because over half of our workforce is over the age of 50. So that gap is just going to continue to get wider and wider. And the demand for our types of services is only going to continue to increase as energy efficiency, initiatives and legislation drives higher performance requirements of the facilities moving forward.
Yeah. So you talk a little bit about energy efficiency, sort of green initiatives. Can you tell us more about, the gap between the current state of commercial building OM and proposed ESG?
Yeah. So, you take a look around at, energy data, particularly coming from, benchmarking services like the EPA's Energy Star, as well as Department of Energy. They have the CBEX database, which is the Commercial Building Energy Consumption Survey, which gets done about every 4 years. And really, we're not tracking the way we should be, especially when you take into consideration how long many of the energy guidelines have been in place. Take something as simple as time-of-day scheduling, right? This is something that has been around, really for 100 years. When you want to look at, mechanical time clocks, when you look at maybe in the 1970s when DDC and controls really came on the scene. So this has been around a very long time, but of the thousands of building performance assessments that I've done in commercial buildings, it's something that we've still really struggle to get right. So, you start looking at, okay, we need to leverage a lot of the technology that we already have, but even after we get something, operating or repaired to its original design intent, okay, well, what are we doing now to make sure that it maintains that level of performance, ongoing? And that I really don't see us having a whole lot of luck with any of the energy efficiency, requirements coming down the pipe, not to mention, sustainability initiatives that a lot of corporate policies are now starting to adopt, without having some type of fail-safe or, ongoing commissioning program like telemetry in place to make sure that the integrity of the system's design is maintained properly throughout the life cycle of that asset.
Gotcha. Anything that you want to add to that, Alan?
Obviously Ryan is spot on. That's why Ryan's with us today, because of the amount of experience he has. I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I ride on his coattails of knowledge every day. It's just the fact of the matter. But yeah, when you start to look at these kinds of these gaps, that we're talking about, telemetry is really a great system because the simple fact of the matter is if you have a building that's designed, built, handed over, brand new building, fantastic. Everything works just as it's supposed to. Of course, it's already been designed with essentially there's so much overkill designed into buildings these days where, once they set it up and they commission it, it's almost impossible for anything to go into a fault mode anyway because there's so much headroom. But here's where the real rubber meets the road. When the first human being goes inside that building, all bets are off. So whatever was happening the day before, today is a different day. And then when the second human being comes in, and then the 50th, and then the 100th or the 300th, things change significantly within that living, breathing entity. And unless you're continually commissioning, you're not going to be on target at all for your green initiatives, for your operational efficiencies. All of those things will become skewed unless you're keeping an eye on that every single day, which telemetry does that 24/7, 365. It doesn't sleep.
Right. What would you say makes building analytics so hard? And what kind of problems do analytics and programs like telemetry help service providers solve?
Well, I'll answer initially. When we talk about building analytics in and of itself being hard, it's not so much that the building analytics in and of themselves, telemetry itself isn't difficult. What's difficult with some building analytics programs is, number one, they're not scalable in a, let's just say, fairly simple fashion. The other thing that becomes a little bit difficult with building analytics, of course, you guys have telemetry. We've been working on this together for some time. And a big part of that is the adoption. How does this affect not only the folks that are the technicians out where the rubber truly meets the road and where you're turning wrenches, but how does this affect the back office? And how do we bring everything together so that it's a fairly seamless workflow, right? That's really where I think a lot of people kind of fall short in the industry. Some of my competitors literally are not capable of even having that type of a solution. That's the full tilt. So I think it becomes frustrating for a lot of folks that are MSPs like yourselves because they just don't make the commitment. I will tell you this, and I've said this for years, the difference between those who are successful and those who fail, the people who are successful or businesses that are successful or whatever it is, they just keep going. They just keep working on it. They make a decision and continue on. And that's really what makes it successful. I think that that's one of the issues as well that makes it difficult for a lot of people. They kind of decide they want to do something, and then halfway through that process, everything falls apart because they didn't make the real commitment. So I think that scalability, adoption, and true commitment and follow through. Those are the things that seem to kind of make it difficult for some folks to really be successful with this.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing that I would really add to that, Alan did a great job laying that out, but even beyond kind of the technical aspect of it, because at the end of the day, analytics, FTDs, it's all math, right? So I'm establishing a baseline or a desired level of performance, and then I'm comparing that against the actual, and any deviation from that desired level of performance is something that someone needs to look at, draw insight from, and then create some type of corrective active measure to eliminate the undesirable, sequence of operations that's being observed by the telemetry system. And I think that's where most people are struggling, and where, I think Harris is a market leader in the fact that you guys have vertically integrated the telemetry system into your workflows and into your business, so that you guys own that last mile, and you can drive the insights that are coming from the analytics system to actionable business results for your clients. And that's where I think a lot of people have failed to see the vision, and have had difficulty getting their smart building programs off the ground.
Yeah. And I know I've asked this in the past in other podcasts, but I'd just like to get your perspective on it. What's, from your point of view, what is the difference between traditional preventative maintenance versus conditioned or performance-based maintenance?
Well, in your traditional models, of course, it's been around, forever, right? This is your perhaps a timed interval, right? Quarterly basis, going out, changing out some filters and some belts, and perhaps walking the property, taking some measurements, kind of, essentially just walking the property on a quarterly basis. It's interestingly enough, I'm sure we've all heard plenty of stories about this, but it's almost invariably, it happens all the time that your technician came out for their timed preventative maintenance visit. A week later, you're calling them because there's some issue. There's a comfort issue or indoor air quality issue, or, perhaps there's some, some things are just continually running and they just don't understand why that's happening. It doesn't make sense, right? You're seeing this happen. So now we have to go back out there once again, send another truck roll to go try to figure out what we didn't see the week earlier. Because again, it's almost as though you'd have to be lucky enough, if you want to call it that, for the problem to occur while you're standing there looking. The on-demand service, if you will, condition-based maintenance, or if you will, what telemetry truly brings to the party, is you're literally responding to real conditions in real time. So you actually know what the root issue is, what is happening, right? What piece of equipment or pieces of equipment are actually having a problem or underperforming. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, you'll actually understand the system effect. Why do I care? Why do I care? Why do I, as Harris, and why does my client care, the person who owns the building, right? What difference does it make? Well, it'll tell you what the system effect is. It'll tell you why you care. The real magic to this, though, and what telemetry brings to the table, is it'll also let your technician know what to do. So that eliminates all that troubleshooting time, all that guesswork, and all those other things, because they're going out to deal with what is an actual known issue and know exactly what to do about it when they show up, let's just say. The good news is, with telemetry, not only can you go out and do that on behalf of your client, you can actually show them with the actual data how that was performing, how it degraded, and actually how it recovered, so that they have the assurance with the data that you've actually done what you promised. So that's a big deal.
The only thing that I would add to that is, telemetry and smart building technology has really opened our eyes to really not only how building systems actually work, but how they really consume energy. So it's opening up new possibilities in terms of preventative maintenance agreements, whereas in the past, previously, and I don't know what it's like in the respective markets that might be represented by this podcast, because it there's a pretty wide spectrum there. But historically, my personal experience has been, people don't typically put distribution systems such as VAVs or fan coils or things underneath preventative maintenance agreements. They're traditionally just fix on fail. Well, what we've found is that the insight that's been brought by monitoring those pieces of equipment is the massive impact that they have on energy consumption in the building. Traditionally, everybody wants to go straight to the utility plan and see, okay, well, what type of efficiency gains can we get from the supply side of the equation? But I can tell you with personal experience that the efficiency gains I have achieved by optimizing the distribution system and the demand side of the system dwarfs any of the savings, both in terms of energy consumption and performance for facilities. And we've now opened up another stream of opportunities for our clients as well as our business. So that would be the only thing I would add there.
Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about virtual building audits. So this is something that's new to me. I don't know much about it other than it's a deeper dive into the data that we pull from with telemetry. So could you maybe describe in a little more detail what the audit is and how it's beneficial to our customers?
So virtual building audits are sort of the next step up from kind of the ongoing commissioning aspect, right? So typically with ongoing performance commissioning, we have a baseline. We're comparing the baseline against what the system is actually doing, and any deviation is going to result in like a work order or something else that's going to happen in order to kind of take corrective action. Where the VBAs come into play is it's more of a strategic approach, and it's iterative. It's not ongoing, right? So there's a huge difference right there, where telemetry runs 24 hours a day. With a VBA, you may only do it, annually or semi-annually or quarterly, depending on, what is the size of the asset and or budget that you're trying to manage. But essentially, what we want to do is have an engineer pour over not only the design data, but also the historic performance data that we're recording in the building itself, and see, okay, what actionable insights at a high level can we either correct, or what new opportunities could we implement that would be, investment grade energy conservation opportunities, or other cost avoidance. We found a situation recently where a control system wasn't properly sequencing a make a bear system. And, by identifying the problem, putting in a correction in the sequence of operations, we were able to drastically reduce the amount of runtime that we had in that make a bear system, DX compressors. So effectively extending the life of that asset.
Right.
So really, if telemetry is kind of your tactical force, kind of like your infantry, then your VBA would be your special ops, or your hitting strategic targets.
Gotcha. How long does something like that take?
It really depends on the size and complexity of the building. Obviously, if it's 50,000 square foot office building with rooftops and VAVs, we can get through those pretty quickly. However, if it's 500,000 square foot hospital with central utility plant and all the trimmings, it could take 1 to 2 weeks to get through a performance assessment on a facility that large.
Okay.
So, and the other thing that I would add is that it is based on the ASHRAE remote, facility audit program.
Okay.
So we take things a step further because we are looking for utility rebates. We are looking for, maybe retrofit opportunities. But aside from that, we follow a very similar process to what ASHRAE guidelines spec.
Okay. Anything that you want to add to that, Alan?
Very, very little. One of the things, because Ryan obviously is the expert on this, frankly speaking, but one of the pieces of the puzzle here with this deliverable, though, is when you're able to provide a report showing a 10-year look into the future, based on Ryan's experience in being able to use the tools such as telemetry to really dig in and find out what's happening within a building. I don't know of personally, and of the years I've been in this industry, I don't know of anything personally that is closer to a crystal ball to see what the future holds as to what a building owner or facility manager really wants to focus on, because the efficiency gains and all the savings that they can save on one side can truly, really drive what they need to do for their CapEx, capital expenditures for a continued improvement. So, really looking at that, myself personally, I'm extremely impressed by what Ryan's able to produce with this, and I have not seen a single recipient of these reports yet not say, oh my gosh, this is incredible. You're showing me over the course of 10 years just how much capital I can have available if I simply follow these recommendations. Mm-hmm. It's really an amazing program.
Cool. Yeah, sounds really cool. What would you say excites Key to Act the most about, working with Harris, and what do you see us doing well?
Well, I'll answer that first, and certainly, Ryan, if you want to add, but, what's really exciting about Key to Act working with Harris, I've had a very nice time and a great experience over the last 2.5 years working with the company, and I've probably interfaced with at least 40, 50 different members of the Harris team, and probably brought in a good 15 or 20 of my team members in various configurations for all kinds of different conversations. One of the things that's super exciting is the simple fact that our cultures match. We absolutely line up. We have it seems that all the folks at Harris and all the folks at Key to Act get together like, what is that, peas and carrots?
Peanut butter jelly.
There you go, peanut butter. Well, my son has peanut allergies, so I was trying to avoid that. I am not even supposed to say it in the house. Just kidding. There's rules here, but I can't tell you about them on this podcast. Silliness aside, it's really exciting because, again, we get along so well, and there's absolute vision lock, which is beautiful. In the first iteration of your podcast, I believe it was the first one with Bob Swanger and Michelle, right? Mm-hmm. They both actually kind of talked about that as well, what their vision is. Our vision is right in line with what Harris has been doing. So it's been the reason it's exciting is it's been so simple to do business together. That's one of the things that I really love about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing that excites me about Harris, and the very first time I saw your telemetry program, I was extremely taken back. And if you look at what has been predicted for many years regarding, not just the HVAC industry, but all skilled labor, there's this massive inflation rate coming in, and it's because of the same influencers that we were talking about earlier. You've got rising regulation. There are all sorts of ESG initiatives that are pushing people to extend the performance of the facilities, and you have the skilled labor shortage gap. I mean, you pick whatever market pressure you want, but there's a ceiling that we're going to hit eventually in what customers are willing and can afford to pay for these types of services. Not to mention, you get out to some of these rural areas, and these folks can't get service in their facilities for sometimes days or even weeks. Some of the rural counties that I worked with out in Texas, they would have a school go down. They couldn't get a chiller mechanic out there for a week, and they had to shut the school down. So that's very, very disruptive to everybody's lives. So, looking at this and looking at the way that Harris has packaged this together, I see this as a major market disruptor, and it really makes me excited, because this is a very smart way to manage a lot of those external market pressures and help keep costs down for your clients, and at the same time provide them with better service. I'm very excited.
Yeah, as are we. Anything else that either of you would like to share about Key to Act in general that you think our viewers and our listeners might benefit from hearing?
Well, I would, of course, say that, naturally we're here to talk today about what we do together, Harris and Key to Act, in terms of our supportive telemetry program. So I certainly don't want to talk outside of that box. I think it's really important that I stay focused, but I would be a bit reluctant to say anything beyond that, because realistically, back to the former question about the excitability, when I started talking with Harris, the interesting thing is I talked to companies like Harris all over the country, frankly. Harris was already there. I'll put it in that term. They were already there. They had already considered significantly internally exactly what they need to do for their future. I will tell you that it's like almost, it's a little difficult, let me just say that, trying to get some folks at the ownership and C-level within other MSPs to really look at this and think about those, the way that Harris put things together in those terms. So that's another thing extremely exciting about working with Harris, is they were already there. They already saw that future. So I would say that anyone that wants to see a company that is extremely good at what they do with an analytics program, look at what Harris is doing and look at telemetry. You'll be very impressed.
Yeah, good. Great to hear. Well, it was nice to learn a little bit more about Key to Act and our partnership with you guys and how everything integrates with telemetry and Harris. So I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to join with me today on this podcast. And until next time, I'm Tiffany with Tiffany Talks Telemetry.